This happened 2 years ago at Christmas time. I worked in a large office with many other people. Every year, our department, consisting of about 20 people, held a little party with a gift exchange. A couple of days before the party, I went to the store to buy a gift. We drew names to see who we would be buying gifts for, and I drew Amanda, a good friend of mine. While at the store, I noticed another coworker named Kevin, who always seemed a bit odd. He worked in a different section, but I had heard things about him and had some awkward conversations with him. When I saw him, I decided not to say hi, and I don't think he noticed me. He was standing at a distance, not looking in my direction. I finished my shopping and left. At the Christmas party, we exchanged gifts. The gift I received was from Kevin, a teddy bear with hearts on it. I thanked him and said it was nice. The rest of the party went as expected, and I went home. After the party, I placed the teddy bear on a shelf in my living room. It seemed like a harmless gift, and I didn't think much of it. However, over the next few days, I started to notice strange things happening. I would hear faint noises in the house, like whispers or footsteps, but when I checked, there was no one there. One evening, while watching TV, I heard a thud coming from the living room. I got up to investigate and found the teddy bear lying on the floor. It had fallen off the shelf, even though I was sure it was securely placed. I picked it up and put it back, feeling a bit uneasy. A few nights later, while relaxing at home, I saw someone quickly go behind a bush in my front yard. Nervously, I checked all doors and windows, ensuring they were locked. Suddenly, I heard someone try to open the front door. I looked out the window but saw no one. Then, I saw Kevin emerge from behind my car, walking towards the house. I quickly moved away from the window and called the police. The police arrived quickly and arrested Kevin. They discovered he had placed an AirTag inside the teddy bear, allowing him to track my location. This incident left me deeply unsettled, but I was glad he was caught. After Kevin's arrest, I couldn't stop thinking about the strange events leading up to it. I decided to do some research on Kevin and discovered that he had a history of obsessive behavior. He had been involved in several incidents at his previous job, where he stalked female coworkers. This information sent chills down my spine, but it also explained his behavior. I also found out that Kevin had recently moved into a house not far from mine. The proximity made it easier for him to stalk me without drawing attention. The thought of him watching me from his house was terrifying, but knowing he was in custody brought some relief. In the weeks following the incident, I took extra precautions to ensure my safety. I installed security cameras around my house and added extra locks to the doors and windows. The teddy bear, which had initially seemed harmless, now served as a grim reminder of how close I had come to danger. I also received counseling to help me cope with the trauma. Talking to a professional helped me process my emotions and regain a sense of normalcy. My friends and family were supportive, and their presence was a source of comfort during this difficult time. Although the experience was harrowing, it taught me valuable lessons about trust and personal safety. I became more cautious and aware of my surroundings. The ordeal also strengthened my friendships as my friends rallied around me, offering their support. Over time, the fear and anxiety subsided, and I began to reclaim my life. I continued to work at the same office, and while I remained cautious, I didn't let the incident define me. The experience left a lasting impact, but it also made me stronger and more resilient. This happened on Christmas morning when I was a kid, around 10 years old. I lived with my parents and siblings in a house with a main floor and a basement. I was the youngest, with my older brother being 13 and my sister 16. My bedroom was in the basement, which had its advantages and disadvantages. That Christmas morning, I woke up early, excited to open presents. As I ran through the basement to the stairs, I thought I saw someone in the storage room. Assuming it was my brother or father, I didn't look closely. Upstairs, I saw my siblings near the Christmas tree and realized my parents were still in their room. I told my brother about the figure I saw, but he dismissed it. Curious and a bit uneasy, I went back downstairs to check. In the storage room, I saw a homeless-looking man with long hair and a beard. I ran back upstairs, screaming that there was a man in the basement. My dad went to confront him while we called the police. The man had broken in through a basement window during the night and was hiding. The police found him hiding behind a neighbor's house. It was terrifying to know he had been there while I slept. The basement was my little haven, away from the hustle and bustle of the main floor. It was a finished space with cozy decorations and a comfortable bed. Despite its distance from the rest of the house, I loved the privacy it offered. However, that Christmas morning, my sanctuary turned into a place of fear. As I ran through the basement, the figure in the storage room was a brief glimpse, but it was enough to unsettle me. My brother's dismissal did little to ease my nerves. The thought of someone lurking in the basement haunted me as I tried to enjoy the holiday festivities. Determined to prove that I wasn't imagining things, I ventured back into the basement. The storage room was cluttered with boxes and old furniture, casting eerie shadows in the dim light. As I approached, my heart raced and my palms grew sweaty. When I finally saw the man, time seemed to stand still. His unkempt appearance and piercing eyes sent a wave of terror through me. I bolted upstairs, screaming for help. My dad sprang into action, grabbing a bat and heading to the basement while my mom called the police. My dad's shouts echoed through the house as he confronted the intruder. We heard scuffling and crashing sounds from the basement, heightening our fear. My siblings and I huddled together in the living room, anxiously awaiting news. Moments later, my dad emerged, breathless and visibly shaken. He informed us that the man had fled through the basement window, but he had managed to lock it behind him. The police arrived shortly after, and my dad provided a description of the intruder. The police conducted a thorough search of the area and found the man hiding behind a neighbor's house. He was arrested and taken into custody. We later learned that he was a drifter with a history of breaking into homes. The incident left a lasting impact on our family. My parents installed additional security measures, including motion sensor lights and reinforced windows. I struggled with feelings of vulnerability and fear, but my family provided unwavering support. Over time, I learned to cope with the fear and anxiety that lingered after the incident. I started seeing a therapist, which helped me process my emotions and regain a sense of control. My family and friends were instrumental in my healing journey, offering encouragement and understanding. The experience also made me more aware of the importance of security and vigilance. I became proactive in ensuring my safety and the safety of those around me. Although the memory of that Christmas morning still sends chills down my spine, it also serves as a reminder of the strength and resilience we possess in the face of fear. Last Christmas, I attended a party hosted by my friends, Jim and Vanessa, in their apartment building's recreation room. The party was lively, with around 30 to 40 guests. Among them was a woman I didn't recognize. She seemed to be alone and didn't interact much. As the party wound down, I noticed the woman sitting alone in a corner. I left the party, drove home, and didn't think much of it until I noticed a car following me. At a red light, I saw the woman from the party in the driver's seat. She followed me all the way to my apartment complex. I parked and quickly walked to my building, noticing her following me. I made it inside and watched her stand outside, unable to enter. I texted my friends, asking if anyone knew her, but no one did. She eventually left, but the incident left me feeling uneasy and confused. The Christmas party was in full swing, with laughter, music, and festive decorations creating a warm and lively atmosphere. Jim and Vanessa had gone all out to make the event special, and it showed. The room was filled with friends, old and new, sharing stories and enjoying the holiday spirit. Among the guests, there was a woman I didn't recognize. She seemed out of place, standing alone and not engaging with anyone. She had an air of mystery about her that piqued my curiosity, but I didn't get a chance to talk to her. As the party wound down and people started to leave, I noticed the woman sitting alone in a corner. She seemed lost in thought, her eyes distant and unfocused. I left the party, drove home, and didn't think much of it until I noticed a car following me. At a red light, I saw the woman from the party in the driver's seat. She followed me all the way to my apartment complex. I parked my car and quickly walked to my building, my heart pounding with unease. As I reached the entrance, I glanced back and saw the woman parking her car a short distance away. She got out and began walking in my direction. Panic set in, and I hurried inside, locking the door behind me. I watched her through the window as she stood outside, seemingly frustrated that she couldn't get in. I texted my friends from the party, asking if anyone knew her, but no one did. Everyone had assumed she was someone else's guest. It was a strange and unsettling realization. The following days were filled with anxiety. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every time I left my apartment, I half expected to see the mysterious woman lurking nearby. One evening, as I returned home from work, I saw her car parked across the street. She was sitting inside, staring at my building. I decided to confront her and walked over to her car. As I approached, she started the engine and drove away, leaving me standing there, bewildered and frustrated. This cat-and-mouse game continued for weeks, with the woman appearing and disappearing, always just out of reach. The constant fear and paranoia began to take a toll on me. I confided in a close friend, who advised me to report the incidents to the police. I hesitated, unsure if they would take me seriously, but ultimately decided it was the best course of action. The police took my report and assured me they would keep an eye on the situation. They advised me to be vigilant and provided tips on how to stay safe. Despite their reassurance, I still felt a lingering sense of dread. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard a knock on my door. My heart raced as I cautiously approached the peephole. To my shock, it was the woman. She looked disheveled and frantic, her eyes wild with desperation. She knocked again, more urgently this time. I quickly called the police, explaining the situation. While waiting for them to arrive, I watched the woman through the peephole. She paced back and forth, muttering to herself. When she realized I wasn't going to open the door, she started banging on it with her fists. The police arrived just in time, apprehending the woman and taking her into custody. It turned out she had a history of mental health issues and had been fixated on me since the party. She believed I was someone from her past, and her delusions had driven her to follow and harass me. The authorities ensured she received the help she needed, and a restraining order was put in place to keep her away from me. The incident left me shaken, but knowing she was getting the care she needed brought a sense of relief. With the woman no longer a threat, I began to rebuild my sense of security. The support of my friends and the vigilance of the police played a crucial role in helping me move on. The experience taught me the importance of trusting my instincts and seeking help when needed. Although the memory of the ordeal lingers, I have learned to appreciate the value of safety and the importance of mental health awareness. The mysterious woman may have caused me fear, but her story also highlighted the need for compassion and understanding for those struggling with mental health issues. This happened when I was in high school, on Christmas Eve. My family and I were wrapping gifts and watching Christmas specials when there was a knock on the door around 11 p.m. I looked out the window and saw a man I didn't recognize. He left, but 30 minutes later, he returned with another man. My parents and I watched them through the window, confused. They eventually walked around to the side of the house. My dad yelled at them, but they didn't respond. We saw them in the backyard, hiding among the trees. My dad called the police while I, foolishly, went outside to investigate. The men charged at me from behind a tree, and I ran back inside, locking the door just in time. The police arrived, but the men were gone. They were later found walking along a street nearby. It was a terrifying experience, knowing they had targeted our house. Christmas Eve was always a special time for my family. We would gather in the living room, wrapping gifts, watching Christmas specials, and enjoying each other's company. That year, the atmosphere was particularly festive, with the scent of pine and baked goods filling the air. Around 11 p.m., a knock on the door disrupted our peaceful evening. I looked out the window and saw a man I didn't recognize. He was alone and didn't seem threatening, but his presence was odd. He left after a few moments, and we dismissed it as a case of mistaken address. 30 minutes later, the man returned, this time with another man. Their presence made us uneasy, and we watched them through the window, trying to understand their intentions. They knocked again, and my dad, feeling protective, opened the front door and demanded to know what they wanted. Instead of answering, the men walked around to the side of the house. My dad's shouts went unanswered, and a sense of dread washed over us. We saw them hiding among the trees in the backyard, their movements shadowy and suspicious. My dad called the police, but impatience got the better of me. I decided to go outside and investigate, hoping to scare them off. It was a foolish decision driven by a mix of curiosity and adrenaline. As I stepped into the yard, the cold night air sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly, the men emerged from behind a tree and charged at me. Panic set in, and I ran back towards the house, my heart pounding in my chest. I barely made it inside, slamming and locking the door just in time. My family gathered around me, their faces etched with fear and concern. The police arrived shortly after, their flashing lights illuminating the darkness. They conducted a thorough search of the area but found no trace of the men. My dad provided a description, and the officers assured us they would patrol the neighborhood. We stayed inside, our nerves frayed, and waited for any news. The minutes felt like hours as we tried to process what had happened. Finally, the police informed us that the men had been found walking along a street nearby. They were taken into custody for questioning. The men turned out to be criminals with a history of home invasions. They had targeted our house, likely believing it was an easy mark due to the festive decorations and apparent affluence. The realization sent chills down my spine, but I was grateful that we had managed to keep them at bay. My dad's quick thinking and the police's prompt response had saved us from a potentially dangerous situation. We installed additional security measures, including motion sensor lights and reinforced locks, to ensure our safety. The experience left a lasting impact on our family. We became more cautious and vigilant, understanding that danger can lurk even in the most unexpected places. The sense of security we had taken for granted was shaken, but it also brought us closer together. We shared the story with friends and neighbors, raising awareness about the importance of home security. The incident served as a reminder that while the holiday season is a time of joy and celebration, it's also essential to stay vigilant and prepared. Over time, the fear and anxiety subsided, but the lessons we learned stayed with us. We continued to celebrate Christmas with the same joy and warmth, but with a heightened sense of awareness. The memory of that Christmas Eve reminded us of the importance of family, safety, and the strength we possess in the face of adversity. While the ordeal was terrifying, it also highlighted the resilience and unity of our family. We faced a threat together and emerged stronger, more connected, and more appreciative of the safety and security we often take for granted. Every year on Christmas Day, my wife and I host a family gathering at our house. We live in a decent-sized place in a quiet neighborhood, perfect for such occasions. A few years ago, our family gathering took an unusual turn. As family members started arriving around noon, someone pointed out a large SUV with heavily tinted windows parked in our driveway. I looked out the front window and saw the SUV, but I didn't recognize it. Nobody from the family was driving it, and it hadn't been there earlier. The car just sat there, engine running, but no one got out. Curious, I decided to go outside and see if someone needed directions or help. As soon as I stepped into the front yard, the SUV started backing up. It quickly left the driveway and drove down the street. I watched it disappear, feeling a bit puzzled but not overly concerned. The day continued without incident. We had our Christmas dinner, exchanged gifts, and enjoyed the company of our loved ones. However, later that afternoon, as we were preparing to take a walk around the neighborhood, I noticed the SUV was back. This time, the SUV was parked in the same spot, engine running, but again, no one got out. I decided to confront the driver and walked briskly towards the car. But just like before, the SUV backed up and drove away as soon as I approached. I couldn't understand what was happening. It was as if someone was watching us, but they didn't want to be seen. The heavily tinted windows made it impossible to see inside, adding to the mystery. We took our walk around the neighborhood, hoping to spot the SUV or its driver. We kept an eye out for anything unusual, but the car was nowhere to be found. After an uneventful walk, we returned home and continued our Christmas celebration. Later that evening, as people began to leave, I noticed the SUV was back yet again. Frustration and concern welled up inside me. I couldn't let this go on without getting some answers. Determined to put an end to this, I bolted out the front door and sprinted towards the SUV. This time, I reached the car just as it started to back up. I pounded on the driver's window, demanding to know who they were and why they were here. The window rolled down slightly, and I saw a pair of anxious eyes staring back at me. The driver mumbled something about being lost, and looking for a friend's house. Before I could ask any more questions, the window rolled up, and the SUV sped away. I was left standing there, feeling a mix of confusion and unease. The following days were filled with a sense of paranoia. I couldn't shake the feeling that the SUV might return. My wife and I decided to report the incidents to the local authorities. The police took our statement and promised to keep an eye on the neighborhood. To our relief, the SUV didn't make another appearance. However, the mystery of who the driver was and their true intentions continued to haunt us. We remained vigilant, ensuring our home was secure and staying alert to any suspicious activity. In the months that followed, we gradually regained our sense of security. The community came together, sharing stories and supporting each other in the face of the unknown threat. While we never discovered the true identity of the SUV driver, the experience brought our neighborhood closer and made us more aware of the importance of vigilance. Our annual Christmas gatherings continued, but with an added layer of caution. The memory of that unsettling Christmas reminded us to appreciate the safety and peace we often take for granted. A few years ago, on Christmas Eve, I was home alone in my apartment. I had just finished decorating my Christmas tree when I heard a knock on the door. It was late, and I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw a man I didn't recognize. I didn't open the door and hoped he would leave. Minutes later, the knocking continued, louder and more insistent. I texted my neighbors, asking if they were expecting someone, but they weren't. Suddenly, I heard a window shatter from the back of the apartment. I called the police, and they arrived quickly, arresting the man trying to break in. He turned out to be a wanted criminal. That night, I learned the importance of trusting my instincts. It was Christmas Eve, and I had just finished decorating my apartment. The warm glow of the Christmas lights and the festive decorations filled the room with a cozy atmosphere. I settled on the couch with a cup of hot cocoa, enjoying the tranquility of the evening. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was late, and I wasn't expecting anyone. I hesitated, feeling a sense of unease. I looked through the peephole and saw a man I didn't recognize. He was standing there, looking impatient. Deciding it was best not to open the door, I hoped the man would leave. Minutes later, the knocking resumed, louder and more insistent. My unease grew, and I texted my neighbors to see if they were expecting anyone. They weren't, and their responses indicated that they, too, felt concerned. I decided to stay quiet and wait for the man to leave. The knocking continued for a few more minutes, then stopped. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking it was over. Just as I began to relax, I heard a loud shattering sound from the back of the apartment. My heart raced as I realized someone had broken a window. Panic set in, and I quickly dialed 911, explaining the situation to the dispatcher. I grabbed a kitchen knife for protection and took refuge in my bedroom, locking the door behind me. The dispatcher assured me that the police were on their way, but the minutes felt like hours as I listened for any signs of the intruder. The sound of sirens filled the air, and I heard the front door burst open as the police entered the apartment. They called out, identifying themselves, and I cautiously emerged from the bedroom. The officers quickly located the man, who was trying to climb through the shattered window. He was arrested and taken into custody. The police later informed me that the man was a wanted criminal with a history of burglary and assault. The realization that he had targeted my apartment sent chills down my spine. The experience left me shaken, but it also reinforced the importance of trusting my instincts. My decision not to open the door had likely prevented a dangerous encounter. The police commended me for my quick thinking and reassured me that I had done everything right. In the aftermath, I installed additional security measures, including reinforced locks and an alarm system. My neighbors and I formed a watch group, keeping an eye out for any suspicious activity and supporting each other in ensuring our safety. The days following the incident were filled with a mix of anxiety and relief. I sought support from friends and family, sharing my experience and finding comfort in their reassurance. With time, the fear began to subside, and I regained a sense of normalcy. The incident became a turning point in my life, teaching me the importance of preparedness and vigilance. I took self-defense classes and stayed informed about local crime trends, empowering myself to handle future threats. The memory of that Christmas Eve remained with me, but it also served as a reminder of my resilience and strength. I had faced a terrifying situation and emerged stronger and more prepared. The support of my community and loved ones played a crucial role in my recovery, and I became an advocate for safety awareness. As the years passed, I continued to celebrate Christmas with the same joy and warmth, but with an added layer of caution. The experience taught me to appreciate the safety and security I often took for granted, and to always trust my instincts. Last Christmas, my friends and I rented a cabin in the woods for a holiday getaway. The first night was fun, but things took a turn on the second night. We heard strange noises outside, and the power went out. We huddled together in the living room, trying to stay calm. Suddenly, we heard footsteps on the porch. We grabbed our phones and used the flashlight to see outside. A shadowy figure stood at the edge of the porch, watching us. We locked the doors and called the cabin owner, who assured us no one should be there. The figure eventually disappeared, and the power came back on. The next morning, we found footprints in the snow leading to and from the cabin. We left early, all feeling unsettled. The experience left us questioning what we had seen and grateful for our safety. Last Christmas, my friends and I decided to rent a cabin in the woods for a holiday getaway. We were excited to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and enjoy the serenity of nature. The cabin was cozy and beautifully decorated, with a roaring fireplace and twinkling Christmas lights. The first night was filled with laughter and joy as we gathered around the fireplace, exchanged gifts, and shared stories. The warmth of the fire and the camaraderie made it a memorable evening. Little did we know, our peaceful retreat was about to take a sinister turn. On the second night, as we were settling in for bed, we heard strange noises coming from outside. At first, we dismissed it as animals moving through the forest, but the sounds grew louder and more persistent. The creaking of the wooden porch and the occasional tapping on the windows made our unease grow. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging the cabin into darkness. We huddled together in the living room, using our phones as flashlights. The darkness seemed to amplify the noises, making them more ominous. We tried to stay calm, reassuring each other that it was just a temporary power outage. As we sat in the dark, we heard footsteps on the porch. Fear gripped us as we realized someone or something was outside. We grabbed our phones and aimed the flashlights towards the windows. A shadowy figure stood at the edge of the porch, watching us. Its presence sent chills down our spines. We locked the doors and called the cabin owner, who assured us that no one should be there. He promised to send someone to check on us, but it would take some time due to the remote location. Meanwhile, the figure continued to linger, its eyes seemingly fixed on us. After what felt like an eternity, the figure eventually disappeared into the darkness, and the power came back on. We breathed a sigh of relief, but the sense of unease remained. We checked all the doors and windows again, ensuring they were securely locked. The cabin owner arrived a while later, accompanied by a friend. They searched the area but found no signs of anyone. They assured us that it was likely a prank by local teenagers, but their words did little to calm our nerves. The next morning, we woke up early, eager to leave the unsettling night behind. As we stepped outside, we found footprints in the snow leading to and from the cabin. The prints were fresh and unmistakably human, confirming that someone had indeed been watching us. We packed our belongings and left the cabin earlier than planned, all feeling deeply unsettled. The beauty of the winter landscape was overshadowed by the lingering fear of our encounter. We couldn't shake the feeling that we had been targeted by something sinister. In the days that followed, we discussed the experience endlessly, trying to make sense of what had happened. Some of us believed it was a harmless prank, while others were convinced there was something more supernatural at play. The mystery of the shadowy figure and the footprints haunted us. We decided to research the history of the cabin and the surrounding area. To our surprise, we discovered that the cabin had a history of strange occurrences, with previous visitors reporting similar experiences. The remote location and the eerie atmosphere seemed to attract unexplained phenomena. Despite the fear and uncertainty, we were grateful for our safety. The experience brought us closer together, strengthening our bond and reminding us of the importance of vigilance. We took away valuable lessons about preparedness and the power of staying calm in the face of fear. While the memory of that haunted Christmas getaway remains vivid, it also serves as a reminder of our resilience and the strength we draw from each other. We continue to share the story, not just as a tale of terror, but as a testament to the enduring spirit of friendship and unity. These 7 true Christmas horror stories remind us that the holiday season, while joyous, can also bring unexpected and chilling experiences. From eerie encounters and home invasions to haunted cabins and mysterious visitors, these tales of terror and survival highlight the importance of vigilance, trust, and the power of community. As you celebrate this holiday season, remember to stay aware of your surroundings and cherish the moments with your loved ones. These stories serve as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of staying strong in the face of fear.